Tyron Woodley came out, did an interview, and he said he'd like to do two more fights within 2020. And he said he did not think he should call somebody out because he had lost his last fight. Now, let's start right there with the second statement. Shouldn't call somebody out because I lost my last fight. That sounds something very similar to what RDA said about a month ago. RDA said, I'm not in a position to call somebody out because of my last loss. I have to just wait and see what's next for me. I appreciate that code of honor and even the ethics behind it. I appreciate the sportsmanship. I've got the whole thing where somebody needs to grab these guys and splash some cold water in their faces. All the rules change for world champions. The rules all change once you become a world champion. You now don't have to follow the same code as everybody else. I mean, you're always a meaningful fight. And whenever you do look at RDA or Tyron Woodley, those guys aren't only former world champions. Those guys are always current main events. I mean, they're a big deal and they matter. Their fights matter and they do get to play by different rules. Now let's look at the first part of Tyron's statement, which is he'd like to do two more fights this year. Great. Who should those guys be against? I have two suggestions myself. And in no particular order, but I do think that Tyron Woodley versus Cowboy would be a lot of fun, be a meaningful fight, would be a fight that right now would make a lot of sense. Neither one is looking to go into a contender's point because of the point that Tyron made, which is he just stubbed his toe. So you're usually not just one fight away. Okay, fine. I think Cowboy won his last fight, by the way. I understand what the record books are going to show, but I thought that Cowboy had won that fight. And Cowboy versus Tyron, certainly at the same weight class and certainly right now, be something that we could all look forward to. But I also have to put RDA in there. And for the same reasons with Tyron, look, these are both former world champions. That is as close to a super fight. A super fight represents when you have two sitting world champions going against each other. The closest thing you can get is two former world champions. And I think RDA versus Tyron would be a lot of fun. RDA has talked about going back to 155. He's even talked about he was going to do a test cut. Test cut would mean he's going to cut the weight. He's going to grab his calendar, mark a date, circle it in yellow, and make weight on that date. Just for fun. Just because. And just to see how his body feels, to see if that is an experiment and or a good idea to actually apply, sign a contract, and drop down the weight. I don't mind that idea. In fact, I respect the discipline behind the idea. I would just suggest for you that before he does that, I think that he does have work to do at 170. I think there's a number of great matches at 170. I think that RDA and Gilbert Burns' styles are very comparable, which is something Tyron Woodley just did, but not something that Tyron Woodley had time to prepare for. That fight was very short notice and put together quickly. I would think that a former world champion, two former world champions from two different weight classes, matching up at this point in their career, for me, makes sense.